Γεια σας και καλώς ήρθατε στο Euronews. Η τρέχουσα γεωπολιτική κατάσταση στον κόσμο και οι συγκρούσεις στη γειτονιά της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης υπαγορεύουν την ανάγκη συνέχισης της διαδικασίας διεύρυνσης, θεωρούν κάποια κράτη-μέλη της Ένωσης. Ένα από αυτά, η Σλοβενία, υποστηρίζει ότι η Ευρώπη θα είναι ακόμα πιο σταθερή, ασφαλής και ευημερούσα μόλις ολοκληρωθεί η διεύρυνση. Για το πώς βλέπει η Σλοβενία την προσθήκη νέων χωρών στο Ευρωπαϊκό Μπλοκ, συνομιλούμε με τον Υφυπουργό Εξωτερικών αρμόδιο για τις ευρωπαϊκές υποθέσεις της Σλοβενίας, Μάρκο Στούτσιν, κατά τη διάρκεια της συζήτησης που διοργάνωσε το ΕΛΙΑΜΕΠ για την ένταξη των χωρών των Δυτικών Βαλκανίων.
So, State Secretary, thank you very much for joining us. Slovenia has been a staunch supporter of the accession of the Western Balkan countries to the EU. Why do you think these countries should enter the European Union? Which would be the benefits, not only for the countries themselves, but for the European Union?
Well, the answer to this is, in my opinion, very easy. The European Union is a peace process. It's a peace project that was established as a coal and steel community many decades ago, and since then there was no major conflicts between any members of European community and now today European Union. So it's clear that the mechanisms that keep these countries together work. This political process of retaining the peace in Europe was then upgraded with the economic cooperation, and it's a formula that proved to be very successful. So Slovenia thinks that Western Balkans, being geographically in the middle of Europe, should definitely be part of this process. If we want this region to be and remain stable, prosperous, if you want this region to be safe, it needs to become, sooner or later, rather sooner, member of the EU.
And do you think that right now in Brussels and in the member states there is enough political will for the accession for these countries? Because we saw the issue of the accession of these countries being neglected, we could say, for some years, for the last decade, apart from some countries like Slovenia, for example, and Greece that were expressing all the time their support to the accession. Do you think now there is a momentum? Do you think now there is enough political will?
Yes, I think it definitely is. If I compare the situation now with the situation 2 years ago, for example, when we were sitting at the different formats of the councils in Brussels 2 years ago, maybe Slovenia took the floor on the issues of Western Balkans, the other countries like Greece, Austria, Croatia, the countries that are around the region, but many others didn't show much interest. Today, everybody is aware that the Western Balkans is a region inside Europe that we need to pay attention to. The reasons are very simple. The region needs to be stable, and we need to help them to keep this stability, and we need to help them that they integrate in the European Union. It's still, let's say, a process that needs communication. It's still that there are some member states that are in a, taking the floor first, and the others are listening to us and then deliberating and then forming their opinions. But the discussion is there, and I'm very confident that everybody in the European Union nowadays is aware of how important this region is.
So the topic of the discussion, of the panel discussion today was enlargement of the EU in the Western Balkans. 2030, is it a dream or reality? What do you think?
It definitely needs to be the reality to try. Now the question is, 2030 is in a 6-year time. We have a couple of candidate countries, and they have different statuses in this process. There are countries like Montenegro, for example, which opened all the chapters already, and it's now slowly closing the chapters. And Montenegro could be one of the countries that would enter European Union even before this date. It's possible. There are some other countries that would need more time. But we definitely need to have a target in order to be optimistic and to aim to do something. Because if we are prolonging this to indefinite future, then we will end up with, well, the same reality as we are having today. still with the region of Western Balkan being outside of the European Union, and I'm not sure if on a long term EU, not the Western Balkans only, but EU can afford this.
We are just a few months before the European elections, and we see the far right rising right now in Europe. Do you think this could be a challenge? This could be an obstacle for the accession of the countries?
I think that when it comes to this question, most of the political parties would be aware of how important this question is also for the future of Europe. Nevertheless, the stability of Western Balkans is extremely important also for the question of migration, for example. What we are seeing now, this region being outside of the European Union, is that it's much more difficult to manage the migration flows as in the current member states of the European Union. So there are different topics, of course, that are closer to different political parties. But I would say that the positive aspects of integration of this region are something that everybody should understand. Yes, we may end up with a different European Union. Yes, it is a challenge, maybe how to keep this momentum and how to push this process further, but I'm confident, as said, that major political parties understand why the region of Western Balkans is not only, not that integration is only important for them, but why it's important for European Union and our citizens as well.
And when it comes to enlargement, we're used to discuss the reforms the candidate countries should implement in order to obtain the acquis. But do you think we should start discussing about reforms within the EU to accept those countries? Because we're going to be a much larger group.
Well, European Union is a project of crisis management, so to say. So it is reforming and adopting to the current geopolitical situation all the time. So European Union is reforming right now as we speak. I mean, it reforms and it changes and it adopts to every major situations that there are. We definitely need to keep this going. We definitely need to speed up the reforms. If we are talking about all the potential of all these current candidate countries to enter European Union, the European Union will be a different European Union as it is today. For example, there are certain countries that are now net receivers from the budget of the European Union that will become net payers. So it changes the perspective for many member states. The decision-making process in European Union is many times too slow. If we want to stay the player in this world, we need to make this process faster, more efficient. So yes, we need to reform, but we shouldn't use this reform as an excuse not to be honest with the enlargement process. So both things should go in parallel.
State Secretary, thank you very much for this discussion.
Thank you for your questions.